Good job on the production side of things, but indeed we are ready to jump into our third game of this series. 1-1 so far between the side of Omega Esports and Nexplay, but you know what? I think I am missing the draft right now. I cannot see what's happening, Dave, so if you can see the draft and see what's happening, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, my boy. Anyways, here the bans, of course, are going to be Olaf, and we were talking about that, Scandal, actually, the fact that you mentioned that now just ban Olaf all the time because you don't have to ban Lulu. Like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, we said it off camera. I was like, if I were Omega, at this point forward in the competition, I would just ban Olaf every single game because they're never going to get their hands on that S tier pick. You don't have to ban Lulu, as you said. Lulu Jinx is off the board, and they lost with it, which is a big loss for Nexplay if they lose with that combination. And we were also talking about when we were going to see Orianna, and Orianna looks like she's being soft hovered right now. Not going to talk about it until it gets locked, but it does indeed. So there we go. We have the Orianna lock-in, which I believe is one of the strongest mid laners in the game right now. And that's going to go towards Nexplay. And now, Max, you correctly mentioned when we were talking off air, the Wukong Orianna combo is on the table, and that's something that I'm assuming that Nexplay will be looking towards for this game.
I would love to see that indeed, and especially because they don't have Alistar. They already picked Alistar earlier, and Alistar is good to try and peel away from the likes of a Wukong, so that's not going to be on the table for them anymore. But we do have Brawl. Brawl, of course, with a shield does counteract the bullet time coming out from the Misfortune, so a really good counter pick in terms of support up against the enemy ADC of Omega Esports. But now that also they picked up the Aurelion Soul earlier for the side of Chile, now they're going to pick it up for themselves. Paired up with also a Singed. Singed is not that kind of popular kind of character in competitive, but they do decide to go for it because we are also in a mindset in a kind of like rule set in this tournament where the draft where you got to pick as many characters as possible. So Singed will make it through here for normally, if I'm not mistaken on that one, it will be going into the Baron side of the lane, and they'll try and play around that one. So Singed, I'm intrigued to see what we would think about this one, Scoundrel, because I don't have a fully set like idea around Singed in competitive. I don't like him, but I don't hate him. He's in between.
So Singed is a very specific playstyle, and like I know a lot of people, I've seen a lot of rumblings about how people think Singed is underrated and how Singed is potentially stronger than people like to give credit for on the top side of the map. He can be very strong if you get him certain items, and he's got a lot of good engage potential. Obviously, if you play for the Rod of Ages, Ryalize Liandry's build, it's got a lot of damage that you can get thrown into a team fight. But he has a very specific playstyle in top. Like you kind of need to let Singed do his thing. Don't try and play around him. Like he looks to either proxy waves, be a nuisance, and generally draw attention to himself. When you see Singed play on the PC, like generally he like draws jungle attention because he's so obnoxious with his positioning on the map. And that's where you go for like dragons and you go for bot lane tower dives or whatever. I'm interested to see if that's the way that Omega look to play Singed in this game, or they're just looking to play him in conjunction with Lulu for the wild growth potential, and play him as a strong disruption team fighter. I have not seen many good Singed in Wild Rifts. It's going to be as much of a learning experience for me as it's going to be for you, Max. But I don't think it's necessarily bad. It just requires a very specific playstyle, and if I think competitive is the place to do that. Like I think competitive is the place to do that. But also, it is a fairly low tier pick in general. And so, in all-round ban pick, if you can get a win with a relatively low tier pick, that's a win for you when it comes to the future drafts. So this is, maybe a bit of a gamble from Omega, but if they come out with a win, they've got a strong bot lane with the Misfortune. Then we could potentially see them get a bit of a head here, because also Graves is a relatively lower tier jungler right now. So they've got two power picks in the form of the Misfortune, the Lulu. They've got a power pick in the form of the Aurelion Soul. Then they have a Graves and a Singed. They're mixing power picks and low tier picks together, and I think that's actually a good way to approach all round ban pick, because it leaves you some stronger picks for later on in the day too.
What Scoundrel means by low tier picks, he means my tier, basically. That's trying to say I'm playing them nab still, so that's unfortunate. But I do think that also when you do play like low tier picks and good strong picks overall, it does make you really consistent throughout the entire BO7 series. You've got like at least some really strong picks every single game, which makes it really good to stay relevant in those games. But especially in Trovo Omega Esports, they got this Lulu. Like Jinx was available, and I think they could have potentially went for that because they cannot pick Lulu on the other side, so they couldn't steal it away to negate that combo potentially. So I'm surprised to see Lulu getting paired up with a Misfortune. It is still somewhat decent, especially that early game poke coming out from the ricochet of the Misfortune, paired up with also the decent poke in early game of Lulu can somewhat pair really good. But I think that overall, they're throwing away a Lulu Jinx wombo combo they could have played potentially later on in the game. So, and you said it also, that Jinx, like without a Lulu, is not all that good, so they might just not even pick jinx this entire series, which I will be really intrigued to see if Omega Esports decide to do so later, and if so, how are they going to try and play around that. Also, when you're looking for the side of Nexplay, I really do like their composition. I think they got some good frontline engage potential. They got himself this Gragas paired up with also this Brawl, so they're going to be able to frontline for the rest of their team and allow the Ezreal and this Orianna to hit this combo up. And especially, I'm looking at the Xing Zhao, and you're looking at Xing Zhao, you're looking at Gragas, you're looking at Orianna. The amount of displacement and CC these three guys bring to the table is astonishing here, Scandal.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a really strong team fight comp. I mean, at the end of the day, that's completely fine. Like, you know, you've got an Orianna Gragas combination. You've got plenty of CC with the Braum, as you correctly mentioned. You've got the Xin Zhao to deliver the ball in these team fight situations. So I think, you know, they've got a very strong 5v5 team fight. But you are also going into like the Misfortune ultimate, the zone control that the Aurelion Soul provides as well. The thing about the Nexplay roster is it kind of takes a little bit of a time to scale up. So, you know, you've got the Orianna, takes a little bit of time to scale up. You've got the Ezreal, takes a couple of items to get online. So I'm again a little worried about first Drake fights. You know, I'd maybe looking to avoid them. It depends if you can get your CC layered correctly. This is a difficult one to call. I think I'm on the edge of just slightly favoring Nexplay because I think what they have works well in a 5v5 scenario, and I'm a little unsure on the Singed as of yet. But Omega have a plan with this Singed, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Normally I like to go for split desk, but I learned it casting with Kasai yesterday that I should not go for split desk or my calls are going to be wrong all the time. So I do agree. I think the next play here, they have a better team fighting potential. Is going to depend on how they decide to scale, and if they take fights early on, they might struggle a bit because of it. But also the lane pressure alone is going to be really, really high up there from Orianna. But also, you've got to keep in mind for everyone at home that also maybe have been following social media, especially Twitter as of recently. There has been a hotfix that came out through very recently, especially for both Lulu and Orianna, in the sense that level 1 ultimate has a 15-second extra addition of cooldown, 10 seconds on level 2 and 5 seconds on level 3. So early on, the ultimate is not going to be up as often. You can't have as much impact, but 15 seconds is 15 seconds. It does not make the character bad in any way, shape, or form. They still remain extremely strong in their own roles regardless. So we're going to see if they can try and now pop off in big ways. But here we go, game number 3. It is 1-1 right now, ladies and gentlemen, in a BO7. It is not BO5 or BO3, as I see a lot of people send in the chat. It is a BO7. So the first team to get 4 games won are going to be taking the series.
Yep, and I completely agree with you. You know, like it's I have no idea what I was agreeing with, Max. Sorry, you know when your mind just blanks? My mind just absolutely blanked. Yeah, no, sorry, I was going to talk about the Orianna nerfs. Yeah, I don't think they're strong enough to sort of put Orianna out of the meta. The level 1 Braum invade, though, this is very common with Braum. He's a super strong level 1 support. However, there is a significant amount of pressure there for the red buff, and it looks like Xin Zhao's just going to go for a Wraith invade, a Raptors invade here onto the Graves. There is a lane swap coming out, by the way. So we have the Ezreal and the Braum on the top side of the map to match the Lulu and the MF. And this is what I mean by specific playstyle with Singed. He is a proxy wave monster, and he's already a little bit ahead of an experience. He's almost level 3. He's going to steal away the honey fruit there. He's now going to start to be aggressive in the red side jungle. I actually think Nexplay may have played this early game a little incorrectly.
Oh, I'm loving it's coming up from Omega Esports. They're playing it so damn well. The flash comes on through, and that's going to be it. First blood for the Lulu. Not really who you want, but you know what? First blood is first blood, and it gives you gold regardless. In a really good spot. Braum going to be jumping on through to help Gragas, but those rotation and the way they played Singe to proxy the wave, take that gold away from the Gragas, then go into an invade to steal away the red buff. Like, all of that was just so well orchestrated. I love it. That was so 10,000 IQ play.
Yeah, but the problem was it was a punishment of how aggressive Nexplay were, but didn't really get anything from on that red side invade. They committed the Gragas to the top side of the map too, and they did not take Singed away from the lane. So Singed was able to clear the first wave, then proxy the second, get a serious experience advantage, deny the honey fruit, pin Gragas to his own turret, and then also walk into the enemy red side jungle for the invade. What is going on here?
I mean, I'm going to tell you what's going on. I don't know why, but Aurelion Sol decided to flash engage onto the Orianna when she was full HP. That does not make a lot of sense, and now that's going to be an extra few frags going to be traded off. Nexplay in a pretty good spot, but Xing Zhao a little bit deep, gets some decent damage, but the frag will not come on through. Barely surviving, though, is going to be that Misfortune. The flash comes out and not going to be connected for Uzi on that Ezreal. That was a fiesta and a half, I do have to say, Xcandra, as you would like to say. That was a... I'll say weird. I'll say weird.
Look at how low the Lulu and MF are. That is awful for Ezreal. That could have been a double kill for him. Singe just looking to be aggressive. We're going to take a look back at that fight again. They pick off the Aurelion Soul. They did manage to get the Braum passive onto him, and then Braum immediately flashes away. They're trying to go aggressive again. Pick up another kill onto the Graves. Onto the Misfortune. He smites to try and get some HP back from the Razorbeaks, and Ezreal just gets body blocked because he smited the Razorbeaks. Ezreal gets completely body blocked by them, and then Lulu is able to flash over the wall and save herself with the shield. That is disaster for Nexplay. That could have been a couple of kills that would have been able to boost this Ezreal, give Uzi the extra gold injection that he needs to start accelerating his lead and potentially become a threat for this first dragon, which is spawning in just under 45 seconds now. So Ezreal and Braum heading back to base. I wonder if they're going to try and pick up their first items of the game. Not quite enough for Manamune, so he's going to have the Tyr and the Caulfield's Warhammer, which, again, no completed items is going to be a bit of a pain if you want to try and contest this first dragon, but they have rotated their bot lane down very quickly for this. I mean, this is an absolute bloodbath of a game so far, though. And again, bit of a botched level 1 has punished Nexplay. But we'll have to see how long if it punishes them significantly so, because we are still relatively even in the game.
Yeah, Drake's going to be coming up very soon, 10 seconds to go, and you can see that already a few backs are coming on through, but I don't think that both teams are going to be ready for this one, and also they don't really need to go fully for it like we saw in the 2 first games. Here, I don't think we might be having as big as a fiesta as we've been having so far in these games, so we'll have to see exactly what is going to be happening as the Vision game is coming on through. Nothing too insane for the time being. Things are taking a nice slow pace, but here we go now. 5-man rotation coming out from none other than Amiga Esports themselves, but the 5-man rotation for the side of NXP is also getting set up. There you go. Front line's going to be singed, put in one player back into the lane. That's going to be Orianna first going down initially, and now they can just put their focus onto the Drake. They leash it a little bit too far away. It shall regen some HP, but it's still potential. It's still not off the table, and I think that here they just don't want to push their luck. They're going to push their luck, though, into the mid lane to crack open the base and take those tower plates. Extra gold coming their way, extra income, and also extra map advantage. Big ultimate from this Gragas, but unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit too late, and they will not be able to save the tower. First tower going away of Amiga Esports.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. I mean, that's what Singe can do. Just pops his ultimate, runs you down, throws the Orianna into the middle of the team fight. And I think, unfortunately, it was just the way that Nexplay were approaching that dragon fight was what undid their attempt to contest it. And they were split. So you saw the Orianna on the top side of the dragon pit, the Ezreal, the Braum, and the Xin Zhao on the bottom side of the dragon pit. They split up like that. That allowed their carries to get isolated, and that was just Singe's playground at that point in time. Isolates the Orianna, takes down, and once the Orianna's dead, a lot of the team fight power of this Nexplay composition gets thrown in the bin, because essentially the Orianna shockwave is an integral part of how you're looking to play these team fights. You're looking to stick that the ball on the Xin Zhao's head, have him dive into the middle of an important position, and then you just shockwave on top of him. And unfortunately, if Chuli gets taken out like that at the start of the fight, you are really looking at a team fight that's going to go awry, and it was able, that's exactly what you saw happen here. Looks like the dragon didn't get taken though, and Nexplay had grouped up for it.
Oh, no, good shield coming on through. Braum's going to negate the bullet time, and the Drake's going to be taken away, secured by the Ezra. Now it's time to fight. Nexplay looking in a good spot, but here it is. Aurelion Sol with a galaxy of CC is going to be coming up with a nice double stun, and they are clearing up the scene, clearing up the rift. And that's going to be 4 frags going the way of none other than Amiga Esports themselves. And now they're going to go for some extra push. Sure, that was a Cloud Drake. It's not a great Drake overall, but it's still going to help them out a decent bit. But Nexplay, they got completely outdone, unfortunately, by that poke coming on through from Amiga.
Yeah, I mean, a good Braum shield to block the Misfortune ultimate at the start of the fight. I mean, let's take a look back again. They saw the Aurelion Soul top. They thought that even if he uses his third ability to get down, they're going to have enough time to take this through, which was the case. They had a nice Braum knockup to stop the Misfortune ultimate. The team fight looked like it was going their way at the start. But as you said, the Galaxy CC comes out of the Aurelion Soul, and he is just in a super strong position right now. So look at how much damage those stars are doing. And once he joined the fight with that big stun, was able to get the damage off necessary, it was game over for Nexplay. It's looking pretty grim for them. They're 5k gold behind at this point in time. The control is coming through from Omega, and like I said, Singed is not considered a particularly high tier pick. Neither is Graves. If you can get a win with these 2 champions, that is a huge bonus for Omega when it comes to the future rounds of all-round draft pick. They're going to go heavy onto Disaster here. Smite comes through. The red buff gets the kill. And that is, again, another important pickup as they look to go for the Rift Herald.
I'm going to blame Jushin on that one. He stole survived. And unfortunately, because he dies, that opens up the opportunity to go for this Herald. And Graves will be taking that one solo. No one's going to snatch it away. The smite comes on through and now can go for a little bit of a push on another side of the lane to create a point of pressure onto Nexplay. As I'm seeing Miss Fortune Lulu going down to the walls, the bottom side, paired up also with Aurelion Sol. They could go for a nice engage if they decide to do so, but Miss Fortune Lulu just not ready to go for it just yet. Gonna go for the extra build vision into the lane, but here you go. The rotation towards bot is still going to be happening. Good engage ultimate. Actually, no, that was not a great ultimate coming on through from Aurelion Sol. Unfortunately, not going to hit the CC he was hoping for, so the fight and the gank will not be happening for the time being. Things are going back very slowly, but because they see so many resources in both mid and also in the bottom side of the lane, this is Graves, in the top lane, just like, well, that's going to be an easy push for me. And here we go. Herald in the top side. That should be an easy turret normally, unless they kill it really quickly, which Xingzhao is good at doing.
And they're just getting turret after turret as well here. You know, this is brilliant play from Omega. They're just playing the map so beautifully. And again, Singe just providing that distraction, that nuisance in the side lane. He's constantly going to be shoving waves. He's not exactly a strong turret taker in his own right, but he's very good at clearing minion waves with relative ease. And that's going to allow the minion waves to build pressure in those side lanes. We're seeing a lot of a rise of redemption. I don't know if you've been seeing this in your games as well, Max, but with the hotfix, or rather the change in the last patch to the way that lockets stack and the way that redemption stack, you'll often see that the support will go redemption. Sorry, the support will go locket, and the jungler will go redemption. So essentially, they utilize both of them for the most powerful team fight assists possible. Look at this. I mean, this Singe just running them down. There isn't really an effective way to deal with him. Obviously, Braum is a relatively strong pick into Singe, but he just jumps in. Oh my word, he's got the Hextech belt. We've got a fight.
Bullet time going on through. Once again, going to get tanked up, but it doesn't matter. Braum is there. Oh, wait, way too deep going on through, and that's a great ultimate also from the Orianna. It's a great shockwave, but unfortunately, there's no big follow-up, and they can't do much. Also, great ricochet from the Miss Fortune onto the Ezreal. Can't remain in that position whatsoever. And they put so many resources in the top side and the mid lane. Ezreal was in mid. The Gragas is in the top side. Like, we can easily go for that. And Singe is like, I'm going to create that opportunity. And sure, it's Braum. Doesn't matter. It's still a frag coming their way, as the Drake is now going to be spawning up. They're going to go back to base. They're a little bit behind, but unfortunately, we're seeing that NXP have no interest in the Drake for now, and that should be an easy Drake coming the way of Omega Esports.
Yeah, no contest on this, and obviously with the Baron spawning in 10 seconds, Omega are now 10,000 gold in the lead, just over, potentially even 11, and that is a nutty amount of gold to have in your back pocket by 10 minutes into the game here, Max. As I look at this engage again, isolating the attempted to isolate the Orianna, but again, isolating the Braum is perfectly fine. Takes a huge amount of damage from the bullet time, even with the unbreakable shield up. The great shockwave, as you correctly mentioned, but the Orianna too far behind to really have a big impact with it. And it looks like Omega are completely in the driving seat in this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Baron on the cards relatively soon. They have a super strong team fight at this point in time, with the Aurelion Sol being so far ahead, as well as the Misfortune. And you can already see they are just coalescing around that Baron pit, looking to dominate the vision control and force Nexplay into an awkward situation.
I mean, in the draft, we were questioning, like, Singe, it's going to work or not, but this Singe is the definition of the word YOLO. He just like, I'm going to tank it. If I dice, whatever, but at least we get the man advantage early on, and that is what we're hoping to get. So I'm really enjoying how the Sin has been working out and creating these frontline opportunities for his squad. Everyone is just now going to be split pushing. And you mentioned it rightly so earlier, Scandal. Like, they found so many turrets in every single lane. The first turrets every time. The top one is about to fall down too if they just get a little bit of an extra push up there. So the resources are definitely looking pretty slim for Nexplay. They are struggling to find these great opportunities. You mentioned it also, the fact that this Orianna is now falling behind to a point where she can't bring as much to the table. Sure, the CC is going to remain untouched, but the damage is going to be heavily impacted by her being so far behind. And this gold lead is definitely allowing the side of Omega Esports to be in a really, really strong position as of now. And of course, JLC Smart always on the front line looking to see if he can find someone, but this time around, no one to shove on your back just for the time being.
And also, you've got to look at the fact that the team fight control is so strong at this point, with a Rylai's Liandry's Singed, and I believe a Rylai's Liandry's Aurelion Sol too. So there's plenty of slow and a huge amount of effect damage coming through. This is the engage now. The Singed jumps in, throws the Braum in. Here we go, Max.
Another YOLO play going out, and Singed doesn't matter if it's a support. He will do it regardless. He's going to put you behind. Now he's going to go for the extra engage, trying to get some nice CC. Aurelion Sol on the back. Like, they just don't even need their team. They just need the Singe to do the damage with this Graves, and they are picking up frag after frag. Braum, Orianna, and Ezreal out of commission, and that opens up the opportunity to go for the Baron, which is exactly what they're going to be doing next play. Like, they're just so far behind. I don't think they can make the comeback happen here, Scamble.
I think you're probably right, Max. This is an insurmountable gold lead, I would say, at this stage in the game. They do scale relatively well, but you're also dealing with Aurelion Sol, who's a great scaling mid laner. Singe scales relatively well too, as does Graves in the jungle. Misfortune, it doesn't scale badly either. I mean, it's not like you're going against a comp that falls off the face of the planet with this Omega squad. So I think realistically, you're completely correct, Max. Nexplay have just fallen too far behind, and again, it was another one of those situations where, you know, we ran it down at first Drake. It's just, and I don't actually think Nexplay made the incorrect decision though. I think they had a strong level 5. Like, you've got Brawl, incredibly strong level 5. You've got Zinzao, strong level 5. Orianna, Ezreal, Gragas, all of them have got strong level 5 ultimates that should be impactful around that first Drake fight. But it was just the mechanics of how the team fight was played out. Chuli got isolated straight away. They weren't grouped up. They should have been on the same side of the pit and approached it as a 5, and they didn't. And that was the problem that Nexplay had. That single fight has allowed Omega to get their claws in this game, and they have not given up since. The Baron is now going to be a real nuisance to deal with the Singe pushing the side lane. They're definitely losing this inhibitor turret to begin with, and I think Nexplay are on their last legs in this game.
Yeah, now that they're cracked open a base, the objective is find a fight, win that fight, and then close off the game off the back of that engagement. So that is definitely going to be their main focus. They're looking for the extra second turret in the bottom side. They will indeed be able to find it, and they got such a big wave with the Baron buff at that. It's going to be really hard to contest. Though Misfortune a little bit deep there, and I would say you want to be careful. She's still got the GA. She's feeling really, really confident. Every single tower in this game is dropping down, and this is looking like the end, ladies and gentlemen. Great Rom engage, going to buy a little bit of breathing space for the team, but unfortunately doesn't have... Oh, he does have the shield, but unfortunately the tank is going to be a little bit late, and now the focus is down on the Nexus, and it's easy peasy, lemon squeezy, baby. Let's go. It's going to be 2-1 over to Omega Esports. History tends to repeat itself, and Omega Esports ready to take the dub against Nexplay once again.
And they won with a Singed. And you know, the Singed came in clutch in that game too. Like the initial isolation on the Orianna. MVP Singed, by the way. The initial isolation on the Orianna was absolutely huge in that first Dragon fight. And he was able to essentially give them the win. I do think that Nexplay misplayed that first Dragon fight. The Orianna needed to be in conjunction and working with the Zinzao to look for and engage and go for a big shockwave. But unfortunately, she was isolated and unable to do that by herself on the side. They attempted to pincer the Dragon Pit, and that was just the incorrect decision, given that they did not have the vision to do so. And it's another one of those cases where I actually think it was correct for Nexplay to engage that Dragon fight, but the mechanics by which they engaged it were wrong, and that was essentially what gave away the game. It was another one of those situations where, unfortunately, the game was just lost after that first Dragon fight, and there was no real way for them to get back into it. These teams are so good at capitalizing off a 4-minute team fight win and just running away with it in the game. I'd love to see some teams theory craft about how is best in those situations, but I think if you're not confident in your first Drake fight, you just don't fight for first Drake, and you look to do what 16-bit did and take that standing gold on the map. But again, as I said, I don't think Nexplay did it wrong by going for the first Dragon. I just think the method by which they tried to engage the fight was wrong, because it allowed Chuli to get isolated. And unfortunately, as you can see, the gold graph tells the story. The decline started at about 4 minutes, and it just rocketed onwards from there. And I think it was unfortunate that they just couldn't get themselves back in the game.